Recognizing seasons of change is a game changer. It is a game changer because knowing what season you're in
Yeah.
makes it easier to actually navigate that season. And I said recognizing seasons of change. I actually think we live our lives in change. Like we're
Yeah.
constantly cycling through
Yes.
seasons and our life is always changing. I think that's a constant, and becoming comfortable with the uncomfortable fact
Hmm.
that we're constantly changing is important. But recognizing the season, I
Yeah.
think that makes it so much easier. And Rachel last year identified that tracking the seasons of change as like the life cycle of the caterpillar,
Caterpillar
yeah,
for the okay.
caterpillar butterfly, um, was a very, it's very poignant. And that's
Yeah.
what we've been talking about this month. And it's funny because we realize it's something that keeps coming back up for us. We're like, oh,
Yes.
that's really good. And we go deeper into it every time it comes back
Yes.
up, which seasons of change and your healing journey, you're always going to go deeper because things come back up.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about the revelations that you had around how the caterpillar and butterfly life cycle and seasons of
Yeah.
change, like the revelations you had.
Well, and I think I feel like it's something that's almost overused, right? We think caterpillar. I mean, lots of people use it because it's such an easy visual for us. Like it's an easy thing. We can
Right.
see here's this caterpillar, and most of us find mini caterpillars not attractive, but like it's like, oh, it's cute. It's
Yeah.
whatever. It's like we're fascinated by the caterpillar. And then it goes, and then certain ones make it this really beautiful chrysalis, and they're like, oh, it's a chrysalis. Oh, and then it becomes this beautiful butterfly. And like we all love, especially the monarch butterfly, like that.
Right.
The journey of the monarch butterfly is amazing. Like it literally flies thousands of miles. So it starts this
Yeah.
journey. It's a little egg, becomes a caterpillar, and then it disintegrates. It becomes goo inside the chrysalis, and then it becomes this amazing butterfly that flies and continues the whole life cycle all
Yeah.
over again. So some of the stuff that's really struck me is how I wonder, like, I'm like, if we could go inside the mind of a caterpillar, I mean, I can't imagine that a caterpillar has very many thoughts, but
It
I,
may. You
it may,
never
I
know.
don't, you never know. But I'm like, does the caterpillar know it's going to become a butterfly? Like, I
Right.
feel like it's not worried about that. The caterpillar is focused on eating and like it's moving, it's growing to the size it needs to be, and its whole kind of goal and journey is to prepare for this next season that is about to become the chrysalis.
Right.
And I look at it and us as a season of we're gaining knowledge, we're growing, and we're kind of getting fat and sassy on all this amazing information, everything. We're just taking it in, take it in, take it in, take it in. And it feels like it could be a more exciting kind of season of change because because you are learning and growing, and it's like, we're moving forward, we're going, we're inching along, we're
Right.
doing this thing. And in some ways it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of worries. I mean, don't get eaten by a bird, right? You know, I mean, there are things that are risky. Don't get left out on the sun, on the concrete, like things like,
Right.
whatever.
Don't get sprayed
There
by
are
a
things.
gardener.
Yeah, yes, there are things, right? There are things. But the focus is just like, it's like take information in, digest, 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 digest. Just keep that growth, that cycle. So then you go into the chrysalis, and I would say one thing that really fascinated me about this cycle was that when I first thought about the chrysalis, I'm thinking about this outside casing that's beautiful. But the outside casing is something that's going to be left behind. Like it is not the caterpillar and it's not the butterfly. It's not the cells. It's
Right.
the stuff that's inside it, the cell soup, the
Right.
goo that nobody sees. And so when I started looking online for pictures of this stage, I was like, nobody takes pictures of the inside of a
It's
chrysalis.
really hard to find.
Yeah, I found one.
Yeah.
I found
I
one
searched
photo.
with you and I didn't
Yes.
find any, which was Rachel found one and I was like, I found
And
none.
of,
Like
of
they
course,
probably exist, but I
none of
couldn't
us
find them.
want to cut into the chrysalis to see that,
Yeah,
right? But
it's ugly.
why? Why don't we want to cut into it? Because we know that cutting in too soon would kill it.
True.
So if you break open the chrysalis before it's time, what's inside will never fully develop, ever. It can't. And the more I looked at the goo, especially with my own changes and things that have happened with like work and with family dynamics, just like being a single parent and like all these different elements that are all coming together in this one season, hitting perimenopause, like all these different things are happening. And it's like to become the butterfly, the caterpillar cannot skip this stage.
Right.
And as I was reading up on the science, it completely disintegrates. The caterpillar completely disintegrates. The only thing that are left, it says there are 6 discs, whatever those are, that stay. Everything else completely disintegrates and it completely rebuilds something new. So it's got these elements, and I view those as like, okay, just imagine like your core values are going to continue to go with you. Right?
Kind of like the 6 discs are your core
yeah,
values. They go with you. Got it.
but these other things around you, and I think that I have a lot of compassion for the goo season, especially as I feel like I'm still kind of somewhat in it and shifting. But it's hard because you are literally changing from something to something else
Yeah.
in a way that even though we can look at the butterfly and we see literally it does a complete transformation, we seem to have a hard time seeing that in others and accepting that in others. Like we don't want them to become something else. We don't want them to become goo. And the people who are in the goo, it's super challenging because often it's not clear what they're becoming or how long this is going to take.
Right.
And I don't know if those cells have any idea how long it's going to take. They're not worried about it. They're just in the goo. This is what it is. And I'm like, but we don't seem to settle into that piece. We seem to freak out about it. And we're like, it's what's happening. And I also am very fascinated by this season because it seems like a lot of the things that are happening in hiding. Like it's uncomfortable because of all the unknowns, and yet you're inside this protected little case. I think I might be in love with this season. Like the more I look at it, the more I'm like, wow, this is so powerful and so scary and yet so amazing because it's a critical stage in the journey. So then you come to the breakout, and the breakout stage is when you've now formed as the butterfly, but you're still trapped. Like those wings can't do anything. You've got to get out of it. And it takes a lot of muscle, a lot of effort to get out of the chrysalis so that you can go be the butterfly. And I look at this season as this little transient season. It's not like the other seasons feel like seasons where you're in them for a longer time.
Okay.
You're living the season. Whereas breakout, it's like, no, it's this short season, hopefully, where it's like I'm taking these 2 previous seasons and I'm now shifting out and I'm daring to step out and be like, okay, here it is. I've gone through this transformation. Here I am. But it feels like your reintroduction onto the stage.
Yeah.
It
As
almost,
something completely different, no less.
yes, exactly. And it takes a lot of effort. And of course, the butterfly has to let the wings dry out and all of these things. And it's testing them out. It's just testing out those wings and moving muscles that literally didn't exist before. And I think it's an interesting season to like give yourself grace in that season. It's kind of the excitement of something new's coming, but it can be very exhausting. It can be very tiring. And maybe you and I have elements of that as we're learning new software. We're learning new things. It's all this stuff where we push out and it's like, okay, now we're doing the things. We're doing them, but they still seem a little more draining than what we would want them to.
Yeah. And I observed that in the breaking out phase, butterflies don't just immediately fly. If you see them fresh out of the chrysalis, they are kind of wet. Their wings look crumpled. They're slowly stretching out until everything is dry. They're kind of flexing and testing. And I think that sometimes in the breaking out phase, it's tempting to be like, okay, I can fly. And when you fall flat on your face, you're kind of surprised. It's like, hey, it's okay to take some time to air out the wings and the sun to dry off. You have to before you fly. And then there's flight.
Well, and I was going to say, one thing that I think is kind of funny is like you're walking around with wings, but you have to continue to use legs. Like you still are using this less maybe elegant form of transportation because you are letting those wings air out. You don't just
Right.
go straight to it. And absolutely, I agree with you. It's you don't just jump into this thing. It's letting yourself kind of ease into it. And then of course you hit the flight and you're learning to take off. You're learning to go from whatever position you're in to flying. You're learning to navigate air currents. You're learning when to use the wings, when to just glide, when you need to land, like when you need to refuel, when do you need to take in energy to survive so that you can keep going. And I think it is a very fun one, but there's still that element of learning and change, just like you were saying at the
Yeah.
beginning of how we're still continuing on in change. And the changes just maybe feel more fun. Um,
I think there's a bit of a paradigm around this idea of arriving too. And I think sometimes
yes.
the flight stage of life feels a bit like, I've arrived. And
Hmm.
we often have expectations of what arrived looks like that we're not
Yep.
aware of until we get to them. I turned 40 a few years ago. And when I turned 40, I entered this season of realizing I had expectations about what my 40s were going to look like, and I
Yeah.
didn't know I had them. And until I
Right.
reached my 40s,
Surprise.
they didn't come up. And so I was all of a sudden like, there's so many things coming up at 40. And I'm like, I did not see that coming
Yep.
because it was so subconscious. And so here I am. Past me is like, you've arrived. You're in your
Yeah.
40s and you're supposed to have here's this list of items you were supposed to
Right.
have when you're in your 40s. And I'm like, I don't have most of those.
No.
And so all of a sudden dealing with my life is good, but there's all of these things that are this sense of failure. So here I am to some degree in what past versions of me thought was my flight stage going, what do you mean you can't fly? What do you mean you're not well equipped for this? Like this is you have arrived. And me going,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, sometimes our expectations of I have arrived, now my life will look like this. Our expectations of what it looks like to have arrived are often skewed. They're
Yes.
skewed
I agree.
with a expectation, a tint, a lack of understanding. I don't know.
Hmm.
And so I think it's worth noting. No season of change I've experienced has been 100% comfortable. I will say some of them have been more fun than others.
Yes.
And I will say that knowing what season I was in
Yeah.
has made it much easier for me to navigate that season because I can give myself more grace. Like you've said, you really resonate with the chrysalis and the goo phase.
Yeah.
And how much more grace have you been able to give yourself because you
So
go,
much.
hey, this is the season I'm in. This is what's
So
important in
much.
this season, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it gives me so much more grace to be in that space. And like I said, I'm starting to fall in love with Whereas when I first realized, I was like, oh my gosh, you're in a goose stage. And I was kind of angry. I was like, this just sucks.
Yeah.
It's just goo. Whereas now I'm like, a goo's kind of awesome because goo is going through an extreme transformation. And
Right.
it's okay that it's not seen. It's actually safer. It's easier. That's why the chrysalis is there to protect it. And then I was started thinking about the flight, and I'm like, oh, we all just flight, so amazing, so beautiful, so wonderful, all the things you can do, but you still have to learn how to navigate those air currents. You still have to
Yeah.
recognize when you are feeling low on fuel, and you're like, I need to rest.
Yeah.
If you don't recognize it, you will die. You need to recognize, okay, I need to go get fueled. Oh, and then looking for fuel. Like, what is fueling you? What is filling you up? And is everything filling you up at the same rate? And I haven't studied this to know certain things, but I know that certain butterflies can't just eat the nectar of any flower. There's certain
Right.
ones that I'm like, they need this
Right.
in order to survive, or they need this. And so there's all those things. So yeah, I think take some time, get familiar with the season you're in. It feels more peaceful when you're aware of what season you're in and you kind of have an idea of, okay, yeah, this one might be a really tough one. Or it's like, oh, this one's the fun one. And embrace those elements of it, knowing that there's change in each one of them.
Yeah.
There's always change. I think that more and more I am realizing we are constantly changing, and that's not going to stop. And I'm like, what if I could accept that and be peaceful about it? How much
Right.
more would I enjoy my own life? So check out the blog post. There's a blog post out, gives you a little insight on each one. And yeah, stay tuned. for next month.
That's right. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Bye.